closed our agenda. I want to show it. There it is. Don't mess with that. Welcome everybody who's here. Angelique will be joining us a little bit late, so I'll kind of kick things off. I just want to make sure we have adequate numbers for a quorum, which would just be more than half. See, there's 6 that are needed. And outside of me, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yes, a quorum is here. Thank you all. We'll get started. So thanks, Amber Rose, Margarita, Ms. Campagna, Ms. Dai, Ms. Okamoto, and Ms. Lohoff. We can kick this meeting off. So Angelique will be joining us. She's just going to be a bit late. So I'm going to display the agenda the rest of the way. I think I emailed it to all of you, but it might be easier if I just display it. So give me a moment and I'll pull that up and then we'll jump right in. All right. We can all see it. Great. All right, welcome. 5:03, we'll call this meeting to order. And so yeah, this is our last school site council meeting of the academic year. So just want to first start off by thanking you all for serving on school site council. I hope that by the end of today's meeting, you realize the significant kind of influence you've had on future plans. You know, it was in this meeting where we talked about prioritizing, trying to get class size down, getting creative about class size, even if it just meant for the next year as we're responding to the disruption in learning due to COVID. And that conversation that took place at School Site Council has had quite an impression on us and our plans. So we'll get to hear a little bit more about that today, and yeah, just kind of go from there. So yeah, so first and foremost, a big thank you. Let's take roll call. I know who's all here. I guess I can just look at the list and realize, and I can see who's here. So there are 6 of you, and that is an adequate number for us to continue. So we'll go from there. And in regards to the agenda, there were 3 items that were different than like typical items. So they're the budget update, the local control accountability plan. I want to share some of the parent results with you guys, and then talk a little bit about not just our extended school year summer school, but the entire expanded learning opportunities plan that has been approved by our board. And again, this was largely influenced by School Site Council. So my question for all of you, do you see recommend any additions or changes to the agenda? And if so, let me know and we'll go from there. Anyone have any recommendations there? All right, then we just need a motion to, actually, we don't need a motion. There's no additional changes, so we're moving on. Anybody on School Site Council have anything to share with the rest of the council? Crickets. Cool. I don't see non-voting members of the public here, but we'll just ask anyways. Really an opportunity for any of you, anything outside of the agenda that you'd like to share, comment, pause it as we are at this moment in the year. Great. So as agenda items come on, then please do share your insight. So we'll move on to the budget update. And I'm going to share just 2 slides from our recent budget update that was shared with our board and the public then. First are just the highlights in the budget, and then sort of what that's looking like as far as how we'll end the year, what the financial position will be in. So the highlights are, you know, that we're forecasting a surplus of 2.4 million, and it's a 224,000 less than we did anticipated the prior month. But I want to be real clear about that. This does not surprise us. This 224,000 additional expenditures was our preparation in February and March for reopening. Yes, that's about how much we spent to reopen when we did. We'd anticipating needing to spend quite a bit of that all along, so it wasn't a unexpected cost or anything, but we hadn't spent it until this moment. So that's why you see it in parentheses as a is more of a deficit than, than a surplus at that moment. So nothing out of the ordinary, what we expected, what we budgeted for, and still leaving us in a really strong financial position. So as Ms. Margarita can attest to, we did have some increased revenue in our child nutrition program. And so some of it was reimbursements, but that was a positive gain there. And so that's a highlight as well. And then, so we still are looking to spend less than we budgeted for, about $70,000 less. And that some of that came to some staffing things that occurred this year. Not that we eliminated positions, but we did have some people who did not, we anticipated would take medical benefits, for example, and then didn't. And so that ends up being savings towards the school. No one's obligated to take our medical benefits, but they can, and they're eligible. Some don't, and ends up resulting in savings. That and a couple of other sort of just fewer expenditures than anticipated. One example, most of the year, our teachers did not have to take sub days because we're in distance learning. So there were some savings on subs, for a good portion of the year, and that's all helping, the bottom line. So then the kind of just a cut to it, where we'll end the year, I'd shared that 2.4 million forecast surplus. So by law, we need to have a minimum of 5% surplus annually. You can see at 38%, that's substantially higher. So this is good for a school in its infancy, which now that we're coming out of our third year, we can start reducing the percent of our surplus because we have strong reserves, right? We'll finish the year with $4.5 million in our fund balance. That's not $4.5 million cash. That's when you take our assets and liabilities and you basically what you have and what you owe and potentially owe. And the difference is that $4.5 million. So this is a very healthy position for a 3-year-old school. It's an extremely healthy position for a 3-year-old school to be in. So now we can start looking at ending every ensuing year with a lower percentage surplus because we've already built reserves, right? The first years are lean years where we try to build a reserve. So quite a substantial difference from the legally required 5% to 38%. I think if fast forward to next year, this percentage will be lower, and that'll be by design. We're going to invest more in our program. So, and yeah, just taking you into the weeds, but just giving you an idea and so on. So there's a couple of positive gains that helped with this number. First, a year ago, we applied for the first wave of the federal payment protection plan loan, and we are eligible for full forgiveness. So that has helped. Other revenue streams have helped, get that over about 700,000 positive gain towards this number. So that's a lot of numbers I'm throwing at you, but I just wanted to give the context for where we're going next in the agenda, that we are in a very healthy financial position. And so we're not going to go out and spend $4.5 million, but we are going to invest in our program. So I want to talk a little bit about that. But at first I want to stop and say, what are your comments? What are your thoughts? What are your questions on what you've heard to date? And I can jump back here if you want, or go here. Any comments or questions from council? Sound all right? Are you, from your perspective, whether as a staff member, a parent, what does that look like from you? Do you think, gosh, I wish Allegiance had more of this or that? We want to hear it, right? We're in a position that we don't have to come to you and say, hey, it's going to be some lean years ahead. We need to make some cuts or anything. No, on the contrary, we're in a position where we want to hear from everyone to further invest in the program. We are, we're taking a look at strong curricular kind of improvements. So Ms. Lohoff and staff are looking at, they're examining some curricular materials now, instructional materials, to kind of ramp things up now. We did put out for professional development support in STEAM. That has to be the kind of showcase of the school. It can't just be okay, it has to be stellar, and that's our goal. So we're looking for outside support in that. We'll be investing in that. We're also in the early stages of looking at adding some modular buildings to the campus, another STEAM lab, and then we'll just need more space for the program that we run. So those are just some of the investments outside of, making sure there are more devices than kids, which is true today and will be true next year. And then, yeah, what else? Just to to separate this program from others. We are looking at, just so you all know, it's an interesting time, but we are trying to remain competitive in our salaries for staff, and so we don't lose people to schools that just pay more. It's tricky for charters because we're smaller. So and unlike, just to put it out there, a school district can operate in the red and no one's going to shut them down. If we operate in the red, so if we spend more than we bring in, we'll get closed down. So we have some some ceilings to what we can spend. We also have to be mindful of what's happening with insurance premiums, with our obligations to our state teachers' retirement and our PERS retirement, which is our classified retirement. Those obligations are going up significantly, so it does kind of put a leash on what we can do, but we are still trying to make sure our salaries stay competitive, so that we continue to attract the high quality people who work at Allegiance. So but there's there's competing factors there, and we're doing our best to kind of navigate it. But yeah, so any no questions or thoughts on the budget update? Cool. So this very healthy position is going to influence what's coming in 2021-22 school year. So I want to talk a little bit about that. But the other point, the other area where we got input was we recently did a local control accountability plan parent survey. So I just want to kind of quickly walk you through some of the results of that, so you see what parents are saying. Pull that up. And then what do you mean I can't open that? Why? That's a lie. I can't open it. Let me open. My drive did not want to open that document, so I'll have to try again. Give me a moment, please. The suspense. All right, we're loading here. It's just a little slower than I care for. All right, I'm going to switch where I'm sharing so that you can see it. And go from there. All right, what did parents tell us when we surveyed them on our 3 goals around our plan? So this school site council and then the LCAP process are the 2 main ways to get direct input into the school's priorities and plans. And so yeah, we just kind of want to show how your input and the communities is influencing what we do. So we asked, our respondents, our parents, how many kids you have at ASA, and that helped. So this number, although it looks like 216 out of 810 is a low number, when you actually add up the number of kids we're talking about, it ends up being a little bit over half of the families at ASA. So we ended up hearing from a little over half our families, which isn't terrible for that. Grade distribution of the respondents, you can see them there. So it's nice that we got a input from all grade levels, which was nice. And then yeah, let's see what they said, right? So and I know the text is a little small, but I'll kind of zoom in for us. We just asked to what extent do they agree with certain statements, and here they are. Blue and red are the strongly agree with the statements. Green, purple are on the disagree with the statements. And as you can see the trend, this was like a city skyline. Those blue and red buildings are much taller than the other ones, which is a nice, nice pat on the back. Of course, staff zoom right to the green and purple and want to know what is wrong and what do we need to do about it. So as far as feeling challenged at school, most of the respondents felt their kids are, and we have a few who don't. And interestingly enough, if you look at the staff, we had a similar survey of staff. This aligns with our staff largely too, where most of us feel we're challenging kids, but there are places where we're not challenging them as much as we'd like. As far as progressing academically, this one I really feel proud that parents shared this to the extent they did, given the year that we've had. that they're seeing the progress in their children. 'Cause if there's any year to see very limited progress, this would be the one, right? Access to high quality materials. I'm glad that we feel that we have high quality learning materials. We're actually looking into even more, but I'm glad that that's the case with the community. And then we went to the actual content areas, and then we just kind of broke it down also to see where are these people who are saying they disagree. Is it concentrated in younger kids, older kids? Is it a certain grade level? And that's helpful for us to know that, where we have to kind of zoom in and make sure that the instruction is relevant and rigorous. So we have it for ELA, for English language arts, for math, science, history, social science, and then we get into our enrichments. So STEAM, and this next list is interesting given that we made the choice to do our enrichments pretty much from recorded lessons, right, while we were in distance learning, to not overwhelm kids and families. We know that came at a cost. It wasn't as engaging or as rigorous or as enjoyable in many cases as it could have been if we were in person, right? And now that we're in person and we have health restrictions where kids shouldn't be traveling from class to class just yet, although that's loosening up, thankfully. We also made the decision to continue the enrichment, sort of in those recorded lessons, which we know we took a hit there, but we prioritize not overwhelming families over those other programs. But so we're excited to return to them as they used to be once we're in the new year. But thankfully, so in many places, families still found them worthwhile and relevant and rigorous. And then our ability to help students who are struggling. Again, given the year, this is a source of pride for us. I know our teachers really focus on knowing who those kids were and then doing something about it. Of course, here's a handful of families who felt that we were not yet, oh, that's world language. Sorry, I wanted to jump to this one. Who feel we need to do a better job of identifying the kiddos who need support and then getting them that. And then challenging kids appropriately, right? So lower blue and red bars there. So an area we know or we're well aware of, and are looking at ways to kind of remedy. So, any thoughts on that so far? Any ahas? Cool. It's a lot of data, but just want to make sure you're hearing what parents tell us. And the comments are, just a little languagey, so we'll jump past those. But this was about communication, and we just simply put, where do you get your info from? And you can see that the weekly WIF update is a big hit. Emails, and then it kind of just drops off a little bit from there, because as we know, a lot of these require kind of like attendance to them, right? You don't check it at your leisure. Seesaw's a big hit, which I fully expect. And then the other areas as well. So this is helpful for us to just kind of see where are people getting their info from, and good to know. And then that's the where question. This is the how well question, right? So how well are we doing at keeping you up to date? And I'm glad to say that as far as finances, operations, governance, learning, etc., we received pretty good scores, and we want to make sure that that's the case. Soliciting input. So this one, we did get a couple folks who say not so much. So we'll look, we've been looking at that to make sure everyone understands. We want to hear from them and make sure they have avenues, or forums to do just that, to give us input. And opportunities to be involved, even in this year, whether we literally had to tell you, sorry, we can't have you on campus just yet. That was kind of nice to see. So access to teachers, solid, and that's why they're in the positions they're in, because they understand that's expected and they agree to that and they remain accessible. Hopefully that continues to be the case. And then same thing with administrators. I'm glad to hear that that's the case for us. Commentary on communication. And then not lastly, our third goal though is really about kind of the safety, the school climate, the school culture, and climate of the school. Awesome to hear that parents recognize that teachers know their students well. Their students are seen as an integral part of the ASA community. This matters, right? This matters for student achievement. So I'm glad that that's the culture that our classrooms are building, our staff are building. Kids being challenged to take risks. This is in our charter. So pretty encouraging with some areas to grow. And so, and then lastly, we did ask about, given the unique circumstances, we asked about COVID. How did we do given the wonkiness of the year? Was distance learning a good program? And was when we got to go in person, was that of high quality? Were we flexible and innovative this year? And did we prioritize your kids this year? And then were our transitions deliberate, swift, organized? So a lot of good data for us, and helpful to just kind of understand how, where we are and where we're not meeting the needs of the community. So super helpful to get this input, and it is directly influencing what we're going to do, how we're going to respond to that. And so, yeah, I've kind of alluded a little bit at that already with the STEAM professional development, which will be the case. We're also looking at focusing on mental health and social emotional learning, both from social emotional learning and mental health, what it means in all classrooms, as well as we're staffing a counselor for next year. So our awesome school psychologist has been doubling as a counselor and a school psychologist. That's not sustainable. So we will be adding a counselor, a full-time counselor. We interviewed our first candidate today. We have a few more lined up. And that's 900 students. It's time to have a dedicated person to the mental health, not just of our students who need direct counseling, but to give teachers and classrooms tools to support all kids. I don't know, I see Dr. Moreno joined us. Did you want to add anything to that response to this data and more?
Hi. I think you got it, but we know, I mean, we have seen an uptick in the kind of referrals for support from our school psychologist. And while she is well suited to provide that, it does kind of, she's straddling two roles in terms of the assessments and things like that need to be completed. And so the counselor just in coming out of the pandemic, I think we are anticipating seeing more need for that, and feel like the dedicated role will really help support our students as well as our staff to kind of train up on supporting our kiddos in the best way.
Thank you for that. Yeah. So my next thought is you heard a lot from me, and I just want to hear what are your impressions? What are you hearing? Any questions you have? It's wide open, but just want to hear from you. Just chime in with questions or thoughts, ahas, any of it goes, clarification. Let me turn it over to this awesome team to just share insights. I maybe have to volunteer some of you if we don't hear from you. General impressions of the LCAP data. Who should we pick on? Let's pick on someone. Let's pick on, everyone's like muting themselves. Miss Margarita, start us off. You were the first one here. Your general impressions or thoughts or questions.
I went to take a nap. I told you. No, I'm so happy as a parent and staff with all this data. That just make me to want to keep being here.
Right. Well, we'll take that. Melissa, I'm going to pick on you next.
The second one was Amber.
Oh, you picked Amber Rose? I was all right. Then you're next, Melissa, after Amber Rose.
Well, all of these numbers seem reasonable. I love the fact that most of the questions were agree or strongly agree. That just shows that we're all doing a great job. And I'm glad that some of the families responded, because that definitely helped out a lot to know all of the, well, how everything is going for from the family's perspectives.
Thank you, Amber Rose. Melissa?
I'm impressed. I mean, you guys know I'm a kindergarten parent, so this is as close as I get to having school community right now because we can't, all be together. So I'm just so thankful that we're with you guys. So, and I have a little one too, so we're gonna be there for like a decade. So yeah, I'm very impressed with how well everything's run and, the organization and the surplus of funds and them being allocated correctly and everything. So yeah, I'm just really happy and grateful to be here. So.
Good. And yeah, and we don't want to stop until every parent says that, right? And I know that's probably an ambitious ask, but that's how Ms. Lohoff works, Dr. Moreno, Ms. Campagna, everybody on this call, you, Ms. Margarita, Ms. Okamoto, you go down the list, whether they're on this call or not. That's what they strive to do. So, well, I'm glad that that's, it's refreshing to hear that that's your experience. That's what we want to do. And yes, lots of blue and red here, but I'll tell you, if you were a fly on the wall in the conversations Dr. Moreno, Ms. Lohoff and I have, we're at that green and purple, spending an hour talking, 99% of the time talking about what are we going to do about this and so on. If you were listening, in those conversations, you'd think the data were reversed but that's the nature of what they do. And hopefully that's why, maybe we're seeing such positive data. So yeah, work to be done, lots to celebrate and plenty of work to be done. So anybody else with additional thoughts? Ms. Lohoff, I skipped over you, but why not? You're on the school site council, speak up.
My takeaway is, and I apologize for my exciting dogs. My takeaway is that this just validates the hard work that the teachers have been through and the support that the parents have struggled with to provide us. I'm excited. And as he said, yes, Dr. Moreno and I are already looking at some of those other little small colors there. I'd rather see none of them, but every program has needs for improvement. So I'm going to go ahead and mute myself.
Yeah, we got you. Anyone else with just comments or questions on the LCAP parent survey? Elena, I know you're on your iPhone, so I'm giving you you unmuted yourself.
Okay, I unmuted. No, it really is great to see so much positive parent feedback. I mean, personally, my kids can't wait to get out of the vehicle when we pull up every day. So just knowing everyone feels the same way, and it's really great for the kids. It's so nice to be back, and it feels great.
Awesome, yeah. Ms. Campagna, I'm gonna leave you out.
Well, I agree. It's very validating to see the red and blues, but I also agree. I'm like looking at the other colors going, okay, why? But I think that's what makes our staff so great is we're not going to sit back and just settle. We're forever looking on how to improve and make this school better.
Absolutely. Cool. All right, going
and
one.
I'm glad to be back too. So great to be back.
Yes, it's been a roller coaster of a ride to get there, but I watched our staff, right? And you heard Ms. Campagna just speak to it, but prior to coming to in person, one of the most difficult things from my perspective was watching how hard the staff worked and not be able to see kind of what that yielded with kids because of distance learning, because of the challenges of teaching and learning through this format. And again, not that it didn't work, but what I watched, is the staff work twice as hard as they ever had and not be able to see the benefits of that work, right? Their kids learning and showing them in front of them. They got glimpses of that for sure, but it was disproportional to the work that they put in. So when kids came back in person and they got to, just have those connections, so on, it was nice to see kind of everyone walk a little taller and just finally get what staff deserve was to see, to find their work as rewarding as it should be. So yeah, it was good to be back in person. Anyone else? Ms. Okamoto, any thoughts there on LCAP? Crickets?
Oh, sorry, I'm here. It's hard coming in last because everyone else said such good things, but I totally agree. You know, it's been quite a year, and just to see at the end of the day that overall overwhelming results are that, you know, families are satisfied and happy with what was done this year. And I just, you know, I'll agree that really worked hard each day. You know, it wasn't easy, but it was just something that was my personal goal, is like, what else can I do? What more can I do with such limited, you know, availability to my access to the kids this year online through the screens? And still amazes me at the relationships that were formed and what I was able to do across the screen. So just it makes me excited now going into hopefully a new year where it's all in person. And, you know, it like makes me for sure not want to take for granted one day that I have in person with each of my students moving forward. So it's been quite a year. So it is, you know, makes me feel good at the end of the day to feel that our families were satisfied too. So good stuff.
Awesome. Thanks. And yeah, thanks everyone again. And so yeah, exciting next steps, right? With this data, with our observation of the year, and where we're going. And so I just want to share a little bit about that. So we'll kind of transition into that now. Let me stop sharing this and go back to the documents in the agenda. All right, I think we're there. And so this document, this is not a template that we came up with. This is provided to us by the California Department of Ed that is tied to specific expanded learning opportunities funds that are headed our way. You may recall a few months ago, interesting word choice. That was like a Freudian slip. So I said you may recall, and Newsom is in the middle of a recall, but a few months ago, Governor Newsom introduced a bill or signed a bill that it allocates funding to schools to reopen, and it was largely done to incentivize reopening in places that were not that were kind of moving a little slower than many wanted. So there were sort of two apportionments there. There was one that if the schools opened by a certain date, then you were eligible for the funding. Then there was a second apportionment which all schools were getting to expand learning. So we were eligible for the 100% of the full funding for the first part because we opened in March, and I believe there was a 1% penalty every day that you didn't open after April 1st. Yes, until May 15, and then that was it. So we didn't have any penalty on that because we opened in time. So that is not part of this discussion. That funding is not in discussion. What is part of this of expanded learning is the second kind of bucket of money, or the second allocation, which all schools are getting with the purpose of expanding the learning opportunities for kids. So schools are going in different directions with this. You may have seen in the news recently that LAUSD's board voted down their expanded learning plan. So I don't know what they're going to be doing, but it's interesting that as this funding's coming, they voted down the options that were presented to the board. So as of this point, I believe they have no expanded learning plan. And different things are happening. Some schools are tacking on 2 weeks to this school year, the current school year. Others are adding hours to certain days of the week going into next school year. So we have options in front of us. The one that we have already agreed to is we're offering summer school, and we're prioritizing the kiddos who really experienced a lot of disruption this last year and were the most affected by distance or by the closures. We've already invited those students to be a part of our summer school. That's not the only thing that we're doing, but as far as expanding the learning opportunities, as far as days go, we're adding a summer school program that is prioritizing those kiddos first and foremost. And this plan was drafted with input from this team. You actually heard an earlier school site council meeting, you helped shape a lot of the priorities in this. And then we looked at like the criteria for this plan, and then looked at our, kind of our own needs internally that we already identified, and then have shaped this. So the kind of showcase of this is a summer school offering, but there's more as well. So this is a lot of this data that was used to identify kids who were invited to summer school. And now Ms. Lohoff and Dr. Moreno have sent out those invitations to students to participate in summer school pretty much for the month of June. After a week. What day we start? June 7th?
Yes, June 7th.
Yeah, to July 2nd, correct? So that's our
Correct.
summer school option. We're under no, we don't want to pretend that 20 extra days in a summer school format are going to erase all of the challenges that kids experience this year, but it's definitely going to help. We have a very intentional plan, and the teams, teachers and leadership, they're rolling it out now. So we expect really good things to happen this summer. And we also know that kids will come out of that still needing support. So it doesn't stop there. But the showcase of it is the summer, right? And what we're also doing is, like I mentioned the counselor earlier, we will add positions. Some of them we're adding with indefinitely, right? As we grow and we grow in enrollment and grow in our scope of services, these positions are going to have some longevity to it. We plan on having a counselor not just next year, but beyond. But some other positions we have that are temporary. We're being very explicit about that. One of the things that we're doing is we're hiring additional, I think, did we say up to 6? Is it up to 6 teachers for possible home base next year?
Yes, up to 6, depending on what the guidelines are.
Yeah, including a special education teacher and then general education teachers. What that will do is, if we are required, like we were this year, to offer a home option to families who don't, sending their kids to school is not what they want to do. So if we're required by law to offer a home-based option, we're not going to do what we did this year, was to have the same teachers, your teachers on here, for example, be responsible for their home-based and their in-person kids. While they're doing it and they're doing a masterful job, but that's a lot, and that's not a year-long sustainable model for anybody. So instead, what we're doing is we're bringing on additional teachers that will be dedicated home-based teachers. We're not adding more kids, we're just adding more teachers. So I'm no mathematician by any means, but if you add more teachers and have the same number of kids, that definitely affects class size, right? So there's a benefit across the school there, where if we have teachers that can be dedicated exclusively to home-based kids, those home-based kids will have a dedicated teacher to them and have a more comprehensive model than someone who has to be responsible for in-person and home-based. The kids who come to school then will have a dedicated in-person teacher, and since some of those students who would be rostered in that class are going to be staying home, a class of 30 might be a class of 24, 25, 27, whatever it may be, maybe 22. I don't know. We have to see what parents choose if they're given this option next year. So we're just kind of based the number on what we anticipate will be around, maybe high 20% of our, high 28% maybe of our kids will stay home. That's about where we are right now, but I'm assuming it's going to go down somewhat. I don't think it's going to go up, but we're predicting at this point, right? But just kind of using this year's data on what parents picked as far as home-based versus in-person to kind of gauge how many teachers we need. But that's one scenario, and that's a likely scenario that we will be required to offer the home option. So we'll have teachers ready for that. We're doing the interviews and bringing those people on now. If that requirement goes away and we're not required to offer home-based, our charter doesn't allow us to offer an independent studies or similar like model. So if that requirement goes away, what happens at Allegiance is, at least right now, our understanding is then we return to 100% in-person school like we were prior to the pandemic. And we still have these additional teachers. We don't have the classrooms to just kind of have more teachers and more classrooms, but we have ideas kind of generating around how we can use those certificated teachers to help make sure that our general ed classrooms, our think tank classrooms get that much more adult support. So we're still kind of fleshing that out, but we will have more teachers with the same number, with 900 students. We will still have more teachers whether we offer home-based or not. And that's a large part of our plan that's incorporated here. We'll be adding more technology. Like I shared, we're investing significantly in professional development. Professional development this last year went to the back burner. We were largely on survival mode. We were just trying to get teachers the resources they needed to provide daily instruction to to their students. We didn't really do too much as far as professional development, given all the craziness of the year. So now next year, that's no longer the case. We're investing significantly in professional development. So I think the takeaway from this is we're adding summer school, and we're adding a lot of staff to have the ratio of kids to adults be far more favorable for next year. We're adding more long-term supports like a counselor. We're adding an assistant principal. We're adding a coordinator of special education. So all of these positions, most of them being the teachers, we want to make sure that their positions will work directly with kids. Some of them are necessary as we get bigger, that we need to have positions like an assistant principal, a coordinator, that while they work directly with kids, their roles are different, right? But the bulk of the people coming on board next year are ones that are going to directly affect what happens in the classroom, and that was a priority as we kind of shaped this model. Welcome, Angelique. I've been blabbing away because you asked me to facilitate for you, so here I am. So yeah, so you're playing a little catch up, but we're just sharing our expanded learning opportunity plan that was largely shaped by this team. Its input over wanting to look at clever ways to bring class size down, given the fact that we can't just get more classrooms, and it's not necessarily easy to get always just add more teachers, but we do have a bit of a solution there. In addition to summer school, we are adding additional teachers next year to either be dedicated home-based teachers if we have to do that, or be available to support grade level teams in ways that we're still kind of figuring out, but we'll have the additional adults. So kind of we're really pleased with a lot of the things we're putting in place, and that support kiddos coming out of a year like no other. So yeah, with that, any thoughts or comments on what you're hearing? Is there something you're not hearing you wish you were? We'd love to hear it. And I totally get it. It's like drinking from a fire hose, guys. I'm throwing a lot at you. This is a culmination of half a year of input, thoughts, data collection, and and law that was signed into bills that were signed into law just in the last few months. So a lot moving quickly here.
I can add a little bit to that.
Yeah.
I know that we're also looking at adding some new curriculum. We did just support the middle school. We heard from, for example, Miss Amber Rose a couple of meetings ago. We've heard from teachers that had some input on, once we'd been into distance learning, what we thought we needed to increase support as far as resources are concerned. So we're looking all the way down TK through 8, I guess that's all the way up, to also support some of those desires that teachers have come to realize that they really needed additional support in some of the curriculum as well. And we figured this was the year to do it.
Yeah, and what Ms. Lohab is speaking to is we're investing now, not just for next year, but for future years, in a lot of the instructional materials and curricular decisions we're making. So I'm anticipating that a lot of the challenges, the known challenges next year, are going to be the implementing a lot of the professional development that we're getting, and as we're looking to retrain in some cases and train for the first time in others our teachers on our instructional materials. So we adopted all of our curriculum that we have in place here when we were 480 students. We have 810 students. We've almost doubled, but we haven't trained them on the curriculum in a couple of years. So nearly half of our staff have kind of learned from their colleagues from prior experiences. It's time to kind of dust those off and give them more support. And we're introducing new materials. So there's a kind of a ambitious kind of ask of everybody next year to implement our programs well, and so we got to support our teachers to do that. And that's and on top of making sure our STEAM program is absolutely just stellar, not good, not great, not okay, but stellar, and that's the goal, and we're investing in that as well. So this just kind of lays out, this slide just kind of, this sheet page here just lays out sort of how the funding is kind of allocated. This is mostly summer school here with the cost of summer school, and then some of the programs that we're looking to get, some tech as well, and then some of the positions that kind of come to be that will help fund through this money. So when it totals around, we're anticipating getting about $470,000 in the expanded learning opportunity funding. So with that, are there any other thoughts or questions? And again, what are you hearing, not hearing? We'd love to hear from this group. Especially if there's anything you think we're missing. Like, nope, you never talked about blank, and we'd love to hear what that thing is. Cool. Crickets, always with the crickets. That works too. I guess in just kind of summarizing it, we're really excited about this plan. We're not naive. We know we'll implement this. Some things we'll look at and go, oh, that wasn't what we thought it would be, and we'll evaluate and change and improve. We'll remain very malleable and just kind of see if what we're doing is working. No one's ever come out of a pandemic, where schools were closed for a year and have a solution, right? We're all facing it, uncharted kind of territory. So we stand by our plan because we know evidence strongly supports if you can have fewer number of kids to adults, good things can happen for kids. So we invested in the classrooms first and foremost by training their teachers on their materials, supporting them with more adults, and ensuring that the kiddos have all the technology and materials they need. Like we stand behind this plan. Now it's time to put it into action and take it from there. Right? So we're excited about what's to come, and you all definitely deserve a hopefully well thought out, and then even more hopefully well implemented plan in this coming year after everything you've had to deal with as well due to the pandemic response. All right, well, I don't think I have much else as far as the agenda goes, but would love to, want to spend the next 10 minutes or so just on anything on your mind that, from your perspective, we should know about. I'd love to hear it, and we'll go from there.
Well, I would love to see more focus on mental health, just because everything that's been going on, I know it's been hard on the students, as well as the teachers, but I want to see more, maybe like clubs or courses or guidance counseling offered, just because mental health is very important. So I just love to see more highlight on that area.
Excellent. Yeah, and you're right to advocate for that. And I'm glad to say that we do have, I don't think we have it all solved, Amber Rose, but it is something we're investing in, both by bringing on a counselor and then also making sure that, that counselor does work with all staff to kind of better equip them to support mental health across the school. So you're right to point that out, Amber Rose. I'm glad you did, because it is definitely important for us to come out of this year with that on our radar. Other thoughts, gang? On the agenda, off the agenda, whatever works. No thoughts. Questions for us? Complaints? Bring it on. We're here.
So I have something to say, and I'm sorry I joined so late. I got stuck on the freeway, but the extended school year or summer school, will the teachers be reaching out to us parents and letting us know that they recommend that 20-day period for our child? And if so, when would we expect to see that?
Looks like
I can go ahead and take that.
Yeah, take it.
Thank you.
So there was a lot of criteria that went into that consideration. And then we did have teachers recommend those that were below grade level. that they felt really needed the additional support. Although it's only 20 days, we are hoping to be able to shore up some of the foundational skills. There was an email go out last week to parents that were for students that were on that list. If you did not receive an email, please reach out to your teacher and they will review the criteria for that. And then they will also communicate with me and we will take a good look at that. So I know that the criteria had to do a lot with, particularly in the lower grades, the reading skills and those, sorry about the sound, those foundational skills that really were creating a challenge for students getting ready to start the next grade level. So there was a lot of emphasis put on that. We took a look at DIBEL scores. We took a look at BPSTs. We took a look at those, like I said, foundational skills. And if I can just take a moment, when a student is coming to summer school this year, they are not necessarily grouped with their teacher or their grade level teacher. They are grouped with kids that are working on the same foundational skills. And we have a pretty dedicated team of, I think it's 16 or 17 teachers that are coming on board and spending half of their summer, as a matter of fact, to make sure that those foundational skills are supported. So also social emotional learning, and some of those kids that were really having considerable difficulty in transitioning back to in-person or remaining engaged, where teachers weren't really able to determine the level of learning that had taken place. So they were also a consideration in the summer school rosters. Those are not finalized. And like I said, if you've not heard from your teachers and your child then wasn't necessarily on that list, but you would like to further that conversation, please reach out to the teachers so that they can provide you the data for where your child currently is. And in the meantime, if, after revisiting that, if that is a consideration that we need to make, they absolutely are bringing those to me. There have been other parents that have reached out. Not many, but there have been a few, and we are looking at them each on a case-by-case basis. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other, yeah, thanks for that question, Angelique, and response, Tammy. Anything else from this council? Cool. So then I do want to reiterate what I said at the beginning, just that first, just thank you for serving on the council. This is our last meeting of the year. I hope you have interest in doing it again next year. Please, the beginning of next year, similar, the word will go out and we'll recruit and form the school site council. But and Angelique, I know you were a little late. Thanks for giving me the heads up that that you would have to come in late, a little bit late because of work. But I want to make sure you didn't miss this part, that the conversations that you helped facilitate here this past year have directly shaped the plans moving forward. It was here where we discussed clever ways to kind of bring class size down if we could. This is not the first time school site council has brought up mental health. And so the conversations that took place here, the administration left and had discussions around. Some of those were then validated in the LCAP survey and what staff told us. And so I just want to express my gratitude for the contributions of this team that are now shaping, what next year will look like for our kiddos. So thank you, each and every one of you, for your service. And I can see that Margarita is chiming in. So she has an important question. Yeah, you're hosting it, right? Didn't you say you were going to host it, Margarita? Oh, now she's muted. Look at that. So it sounds like she is hosting it. So expect the evite to come out soon. So yeah, Amber Rose, as you go on to what's next for you, Be sure to add this to your portfolio. You are an active member of the school site council, contributed a lot of great ideas, and your voice needs to continue to be heard in schools, young lady. You understand that? You have fantastic perspective, and you need to go continue to positively shape the lives of your peers. All right, kiddo? All right.
Amber Rose, these are also volunteer hours. So make sure you keep track of that, because I will gladly sign those off.
Amber Rose, where are you headed to next year?
Still not sure, unfortunately.
Have you narrowed it down? We're just going to all grill you now with questions.
So
All right, no problem. Well, if you want to talk about it, you know where to find me, all right? We can kind of weigh your options together.
Do we have a baby yet in your family?
yes, ma'am.
Oh, wow.
We do.
Congrats, big sis.
So do you have a brother or a sister?
Brother.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And everyone is doing well, yes?
Yes.
I'll bet your plate is full.
That's awesome to hear.
That is.
All right, you heard my final words. I'm gonna stop talking. Any final words, and then let Angelique give her the reins here and honors of closing us out. Last thoughts? Once, twice.
Thanks for listening to my weird ideas.
Hey, those weird ideas.
Not weird.
Were not weird at all, and they definitely resonated with us. And maybe not identical to your idea, but definitely, what we're doing next year is influenced by you sharing, Melissa. So thank you.
All
It
right,
was fun.
well,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, take it away, Angelique.
all right, well, wonderful. Thank you everyone for your time this year. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll motion Munoz.
Do I have a second?
Margarita Cosio, second.
That sounds like Margarita seconds.
Was it second? Wonderful. Can we take a vote?
No one
Everyone agree?
looks like it.
Great.
Aye.
Wonderful. Well, that will be it for the meeting tonight, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful
Thank you so
summer.
much.
Yeah,
You
thank
guys too. Thank you.
Everyone, and good luck.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Rock.
Goodbye.
Thank you all. Look at Elena still hanging out. There she is. Cool. All right.
You're still recording.
Oh, yeah.